It is January 12th. I'm back with another episode of the Transfer Portal Shakeup. I'm your host, Charles Simmons. And last week we talked about Ole Miss and LSU. I talked about kind of the influence of Lane Kiffin leaving has kind of had on both programs. So if you want to go check out that episode, go ahead and check it out. You're not going to miss anything in this one. Always come back and tune into what I bring you today, because today what I'm going to be talking about is Tennessee and kind of the linebackers that I've looked at in the transfer portal so far. So to kick things off with Tennessee to me kind of popped off when I was going through looking at what teams have been doing in the transfer portal, trying to find what team has really looked trendy, what team has really caught on and started going in a certain route that kind of catches my eye. And for me, Tennessee did. A lot of reason why Tennessee caught my eye was because of how many Penn State commits that they were getting in the portal, because it kind of just went over my head that they got Jim Knowles as their defensive coordinator. And I had to do some research, obviously learn, okay, Jim's now the DC for Tennessee. Obviously, that makes a lot of sense why they get 4 Penn State commits for their 2026 transfer class. A lot of sense made there. And then I started looking at who exactly they got. Chaz Campbell, one of the top edge rushers in the portal. Obviously, I think he's top 5. You can argue where he ranks in the top 5 group, but I think he's a solidified top 5 edge out of the portal. Marion Campbell, top 3 linebacker. He led Penn State in tackles last season. He's going to be a key contributor to the Jim Knowles scheme. He's going to bring a lot of experience. He's going to probably be the most active playmaker in the Tennessee linebacking core. And then you got Xavier Glenman, a defensive lineman. He's going to add a lot of depth and experience. He knows Jim's system. He's going to be a good combo piece with Chaz Campbell. And then you got Lane. He's another safety that's going to add some versatility to the secondary for Tennessee, where you've seen them get exposed a lot in big plays. Tennessee game or in the Georgia game, it happened. Vanderbilt game, it happened a whole lot. Also getting exposed with mobile quarterbacks. You're hoping with these 4 guys coming in, you're going to see a little bit better, a lot more chemistry a lot sooner. You got Q Morris, Kansas State safety, Ken Lee, corner out of Auburn, a couple more secondary pieces. So next year, just looking at what they've grabbed defensively, I think Campbell, he's going to be an instant starter. I'll talk more detail exactly about his game, because I'm going to talk about the linebackers in general. So I'll talk about Campbell a little bit more, but I think his impact is going to be immediate, and it's going to be one of the most important pieces in the Tennessee defense. Chaz Campbell, though, Xavier Glenman is 2 guys I want to kind of talk about, because in 2024, when I was watching Tennessee and watching that defensive line, it was kind of a one line come in, one line go out. Another line come in, another line go out. And it was just this deep rotation of defensive linemen, not just one guy or 2 or 3 guys that they just would bring in every rotation. It was one line would go out, another line would go out. And it was just this deep rotation that they had in 2024. And it was kind of their big focal point in their defense. Obviously they had pretty good linebackers. They had a decent corner group, but that defensive lineman was their biggest focal point of 2024. And then come 2025, you had a lot of injuries, especially on the back half of 2024. You had a lot of key injuries, a lot of guys that had to sit out all season. And then you had guys go into the portal, and then you had a lot of culture issues in 2025 that kind of just hindered the defense in many different ways. That defense needed a revamp. It needed just start from zero situation. And this is it. This is it. Start from zero. I thought Jim Knowles at Penn State would have been a good addition. I thought Penn State would have been a pretty competitive program last year. I don't think a lot of people predicted for Penn State to look the way Penn State did. You want to blame it on Jim, blame it on Jim. If you don't, you don't. That's not what I'm here to talk about, and that's not what I'm going to do. But I think for Tennessee, it will be a good direction. It's time for them to restart, because what was going down in last year, if you want to build a winning program, you want to start building a winning defense, you can't have a lot of those culture issues that you were having defensively carry on. So this is like I said, it is a ground zero restart. I think with the guys that they're adding and will add and what they're bringing in from recruiting, think defense I'm going to have to see how they play spring. I want to tune in a lot of their spring practices, look at what they do in their spring game, but spring will give me a better indicator of what to really expect out of the Tennessee defense. But two of the biggest impact players, Chaz Campbell, Marion Campbell. I don't want to highlight, you know, they did get a couple different guys. They have 10 commits in total, but the only other notable guy that you could really talk about would probably be offensive tackle or Williams from LSU. He's going to, lock in a spot, obviously, with a lot of Tennessee guys leaving the portal, just like they did last year. They do it once again. So they have two offensive tackles leaving. Williams is going to probably be competing for a starting spot during spring. So offensive line is another position group that you should probably watch out for Tennessee. And then obviously quarterback. They haven't really found their guy yet. Sam Levitt has went on visit with them. That probably be the most important piece that will kind of be the determining factor for Tennessee on how well they will compete in 2026. But even if they don't find a quarterback, I think offensively they will be fine. So what's going to matter for 2026? Defensive reset. Tennessee, clearly, it views their defense as the biggest offensive need, and they're attacking it through the portal. You see it what they're getting from recruiting and transfer-wise, and I don't think that's going to stop until portal closes. The coaching influence, a Knowles connection, particular with Penn State, bringing a lot of those guys over to Knoxville. I think that's going to instantly create that level of chemistry that you need to be very competitive. Quarterback, still unanswered, but I don't think it's really going to shake up how Tennessee's offense is going to necessarily look, because the way I look at Tennessee's offense is if they have a skilled quarterback, then you're going to see a very high-level offense. But if you don't really get that skill, you're still going to see a very competitive Tennessee offense. But the skill of the quarterback obviously will increase how explosive they can be. That's about the only thing that will change. I think the running game will be phenomenal. You're still going to have really good receivers. So the level of explosiveness will depend on the quarterback ability. But overall, I think Tennessee will still have a top 10, top 15 offense in 2026. And then immediate impact portal guys. Players like Coleman, Campbell, Williams, those guys are going to be competing instantly for starting spots. And I think they're going to be the most impactful come spring. Now, like I mentioned earlier, Marion Campbell is by far, in my opinion, top 3 linebacker in the portal. But outside of him, there's 3 other guys I really want to talk about with Campbell that kind of stood out to me while I was watching tape. And each one has their own reason. I talked about Keaton Thomas last week. Baylor transferred, committing to Ole Miss. Owen Long, he's a Colorado State young guy. I think he committed to Arizona State. I think they grabbed someone that instantly, I think, is going to be one of the best developmental projects that you can get at the linebacker position. Christian Allegor is probably my favorite in the top, and I think should be on the top of a lot of guys' boards coming out of the portal. Wisconsin linebacker committed to Ohio State, and obviously Amon Campbell is another top 3 guy. Looking at the projects, Keaton Thomas is in that project category. I have him listed as a top 15 linebacker coming out of the portal, or top 15 linebacker. Portal-wise, he's probably in the top 10 range, but going into next season, he's somewhere around the top 15, top 25, and I think he fits excellent in the Ole Miss system. He's going to bring a lot of the things that Ole Miss was struggling in when it comes to limiting explosive plays and tackling. He has good size. He has great range. He's a flashy playmaker, but there's a lot of aspects that do need to be redefined a little bit. And, that comes to his overcommitment. When he comes down the line and he's not necessarily on the backside, he can kind of fade over to the front side of the ball carrier just a little bit, which will allow a cutback lane. That's stuff that can be cleaned up. Sometimes he's a little too aggressive in his press, and he doesn't necessarily know when to disengage to kind of follow the tight end on route, and the tight end can get to the top of his route and get open, and he gets hung up very early on because he's just too aggressive trying to press down the line. But those things are very coachable. More reps, increased discipline, But overall, he's a top 25, top 15 guy in college football next season. And I just, in my opinion, I love the upside on the guy. I think if he really gets that true development over at Ole Miss, he's going to be a phenomenal guy to watch out for. Another developmental guy, my personal favorite project linebacker, is Owen Long. Watching a little bit of the Colorado State games, he instantly stood out as probably the best player on defense. But I think he still went under the radar, being that he played at a G5 school. Nobody really watches G5 film, so he kind of, in my opinion, went under the radar. But I think Arizona State picked up a tremendous guy for his age. He's a great tackler, shows great instinct, great eye discipline. Like I said, for his age, obviously, there's a lot of things that can be cleaned up. But when we just look at, the youth and the inexperience that he has and the way he played on film, it's phenomenal to watch him play. He understands how to use leverage, and he's great coming off the edge, rushing the passer. He knows how to use his hands, off the blitz. But some of the same concepts. He gets caught up sometimes on blocks, on block sheds. He doesn't necessarily know how to disengage when he's pressing the tight end down the line and allows the tight end to, once again, like I said, on top of the route, gets open. Sometimes he has that overcommitment issue. He's a little too explosive where he just misses the spot. So once again, he's a very developmental type guy. He's not very strong in pass coverage. Like I stated, he gets trapped on blocks a lot, but all that can be fixed. But those are my two. Owen Long is probably my favorite developmental guy, but Thomas, Owen are two linebackers you need to watch next season. But instant impact linebackers. These are the guys that no matter where they would have gone, they would have been quality guys no matter what. And I'm going to go ahead and start off with Amar Campbell because I was talking about him when I was talking about Tennessee, top 3 linebacker in the portal for me. He's very similar to Thomas Wood, how explosive he is downfield, the way he can fill gaps on instinct. He knows exactly how to get in the gap. He reads it almost off beat, and then he just understands, the pass coverage, how to get leverage. That's where he kind of starts separating himself from Thomas, is his pass coverage game. He knows exactly when to disengage off the press and, pressing the tight end downfield and not allowing the tight end or whoever he's covering to kind of formulate their route at the top, and knows how to keep eyes on the quarterback. So if quarterback rolls out, he can instantly shut down the escape. Where he shines is his tackling. He's a phenomenal tackler. The one thing I will say that, probably Thomas does a little bit better, and what I would say he should improve on is his shedding of the block. His block shed needs to be improved. Sometimes he can get stuck a little bit. It's not that he's not knowing where to go. Like, he reads it, he knows where to go, but sometimes he just gets stuck and it's hard for him to disengage. But that's probably the biggest critique, and honestly the only critique that I really have for his game, is just the block shedding aspect. And then another guy, my personal favorite linebacker in the 2026 portal, he's my number 1 linebacker in 2026 in general, Christian Allegor. And obviously, a lot of these top 5 number 1s, they will change with more film. They will change with off, spring ball activities. But as of right now, with all the film that I've currently watched, Christian Allegor is my favorite linebacker in 2026. He has great size, excellent side-to-side range, outstanding instincts, the best pass coverage linebacker I've seen so far. The only critique that I really could say to his game is the fact that he doesn't really have a pass rush bag. Like, he bull rushes, but he doesn't really have a lot of finesse. He doesn't really shed the block or shed the running back to get to the quarterback on the blitz, or when he rushes the quarterback from the outside. Like, he's very one-dimensional in that aspect. And if he can just start figuring out how to, open up his game, because he can get off blocks, he can shed blocks, phenomenal, but he just doesn't utilize that when he blitzes. And it's very confusing to kind of see that, because it's like, okay, you can shed the block, but why can you not utilize the same rip motion or the same chop motion that you're utilizing on a lineman on the running back? I mean, the guy is 150, 200 pounds lighter. But what are you doing? But that's probably my only critique that I have on Allegor. Outside of that, instant tone setter. Like I said, number 1 linebacker in the portal. I say number one linebacker in 2026. Like always, you want to see my latest reaction on any transfer portal news that has currently happened. Go check out my Instagram. I'll make sure I'll have those in the description. If not, just go type in Football Express on any social media platform and you'll see it. You'll see the gray helmet with the Football Express logo on there. That is me. Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, anywhere you get your podcast at. I am now currently on Substack. It is a new app that I am currently trying out, and it's where I'm going to start posting a lot of my articles at, where I'll kind of do a lot of written form evaluation on a lot of different players in positions. So stay tuned to that. It's Substack. You can download it on any mobile device. And once again, look up Football Express and you will find me on there. Like always, I'll catch y'all on the next episode. It should be on Friday. And then if anything happens, I'll let y'all know. But like always, see y'all in the next one.